Hey there, Laker fans. Welcome to another episode of Lakers Detailed. I am your host, Vinay, with my co-host, Raj. The Lakers finally break this mini losing streak that started with that loss to Orlando.
Mhm.
The last loss being to a game winner, basically, to Trae Young in Atlanta after a
Yeah.
game that we looked really good in. Lakers break that losing streak. We don't have LeBron against Portland, but we do have Anthony Davis. And during this last stretch since the OKC game, we haven't had Austin Reeves too as well. They break that streak. We go into this 4-day break that we've had so far with a win,
Mhm.
but the fan base has very mixed feelings, including myself. Have very mixed feelings about some of the stuff that's been going on with the Lakers.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to get into today. But before we jump into that, I want to shout out you, Raj. You have been working the South Bay Lakers beat, and you got an interview with Ronnie James, which I thought was very cool because we haven't really gotten one from from the on the ground, boots on the ground sort of perspective. Um, so congratulations to you because I know working that little beat and being at the G League games is sicko behavior, as our folks from the coach's den likes our guys at the coach's den side like to use that phrase. Um, Talk to me about that experience. What's it like now? You've been talking to the head coach and
Yeah.
Bronny and different players.
No, it's amazing. It definitely is part of the Sicko Hoops community, of course, and it's just I never take for granted to be able to talk to players, you know what I mean, and ones who are on the team. I talked to Christian Coloco, and then he's like playing the next night, you know what I mean, in real minutes. I think that's so cool. Yeah, I got to talk to Bronny. He had his best game. He had 16 points, and again, you got to remember all these dudes are also humans, and they go through things and they go through struggles, and you don't always want to press hard on questions and stuff like that, but yeah, me and the coach now have a pretty close rapport because I'm the only one that's there and requesting him every time, which has been really cool, and getting his kind of insights. And it's just a great place, man. If you have a chance, I really recommend people to come down and watch the game. And my favorite thing is I can like hear all the coverages. I hear all the little one-on-one trash talks that you like, again, you don't hear even if you're courtside at Laker games, or even if you're close up there. There's just so much noise and stuff going on that it's tough to like hear that. But like if you're on the floor during the Lakers South Bay games, you can hear Kai Jones and Coloco like really talking to each other and going at it in a South Bay environment. But yeah, that beat has been cool. The sport's been awesome. Working on a few pieces for that should be out soon. But yeah, thank you, man, and it's been fun.
Yeah, man. I'm very glad to see you take it uh, very professionally, approach it very professionally. And I don't think people understand how much you actually care about basketball and how much you want to put even players in a good position to be able to like, talk about the stuff that they do well on the court. That fans don't get insight in regard to. We can point it out when we clip stuff
Hmm.
online, but sometimes it's very cool to get a perspective from the player itself. Well, we saw you do something really interesting on the floor. What happened during this
Yeah.
specific time? And so it's great to see.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
yeah. So Raj, let's get into some Lakers basketball because
Ooh.
there was
Before we
yes,
start, because
yeah,
I think this is important. You had your rant that I think made waves around, and obviously I think Vinay, you're obviously you're polarizing in different areas, but I think that was as even with all the F bombs that you decided
yes.
enlist in that conversation, I think that was as well articulated as I've heard. I'm not sure if you like prepped that, or if that was like, I'm not sure. That was just out of the blue. So, you were like, I'm gonna space. I was like, all right.
Yeah,
But yeah, I said that was very well articulated, and we can kind of
yeah,
get into some of that here. But yeah, that
yeah.
made some nice waves.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I gave that some thought because I thought to myself, well, first of all, I did it like at 1:30 in the afternoon. So I was just like, nobody's going to be listening to this. So it's a good time for me to just say it.
Oh,
And
you
the
were wrong.
people, yeah, and the people who want to listen to it will listen to it later. And then what ended up happening was a lot of people started listening to it. And I was like, oh, shoot, I should really make sure my message makes sense here. And I don't sound like some blathering idiot that's a Lakers fan. But I thought about it quite a lot
Yeah.
beforehand, and then, it sort of reached a point. Um, the match that lit the force on fire for me was the Vando news, and
Yeah.
them and we haven't potted since then,
Mhm.
since the thing. And we can get into the on-court Lakers basketball because I do want to talk about the stuff that's happened with Austin out.
Yeah.
But I'll just touch on this quickly. Like the news came out that Vando had a setback with his left knee. He's already had 2 foot procedures. It's been a while coming up, and now they are hoping that he's basically going to have, a January start. Maybe make it back in time for January, and who knows what that means at this point. We make the joke that Vanda doesn't exist. That's a Lakers detailed original joke that a lot of people have been stealing, which is okay. It's a form of flattery, I guess. But one of the things that was very frustrating was them slipping in the language, which very clearly was front office language. I don't think this is something that Shams and McMenamin were speculating on their own. But there was a line towards the end about how JJ Redick has been unable to evaluate the roster, which I don't think is true. I think JJ probably knows very clearly what he needs out of the roster because he's been basically challenging these guys to do some of those things. And then the other thing was that the front office has been unable to evaluate it as well. And that just put me in a really not bad place, but like it's just I was so irritated because it just didn't make any sense. And it's just I think I wrote the tweet exactly the way I thought. I was like, the audacity of the front office to slip that in there and be like, yeah, they're gonna buy this. like just sprinkle it like some parsley on your favorite
Little
dish.
seasoning.
I was just like, dude, what? How did you guys even like? Maybe if you didn't have that line at all, I'd never do that space. But the fact that they put it, I think, I took a screenshot of it. Other people took a screenshot of it, shared it, and they just caught wild. That's when I think then I did the space, and then the very next day I hear people kind of saying kind of the same thing that I was saying, which is fine. Again, me and Raj, we know that we create some of the original ideas that the folks do, but the goal is to get the fan base where we want it to go. And we can't tell people how to fan. So I'm glad that I got a lot of DMs afterwards. I got a lot of messages. Dude, you're totally right. Like the way you said it makes a ton of sense. You said that to me too as well. So I'm glad that it resonated with some folks, and I still feel that way now. I feel like no matter what moves we do, obviously we want to improve, and we'll get into what those moves might need to be. There's an organizational talent issue within the organization that has to be addressed, and I think it would be for the best of the fan base as well as the organization for them to really address that, because we can't keep doing this. This is insane, dude. Like to ask to put it on a guy like Vando. Did you see Vando's tweet afterwards where he tweeted
false,
and then he deleted the tweet, and I was just like, oh my god! Like everybody's just like, what does that mean? Like, is he saying that the report is false, or is he saying that like the setback is false? And it's just like, obviously we haven't speculated anymore. He's just posting his outfits that he wears on Fashion Week. So
you'll never know which one he was speaking about. I think it was more because I think that the tweet was referring to he'd be back in January, like he's in ramping up and he'll be back in January, and then he tweeted out false. And again, those are really tough lines to walk. But obviously I listened to your space, and obviously I think you articulated very well, as I said, in terms of what the issues are. Again, I tiptoe around this as much as I can, but and I try not to call for people's jobs. But I think what you're just asking for, Vinay, is let's have an evaluation of what's going on, right? Let's evaluate the team on the wins and losses. And the Vando stuff is so insane to me, and it feels very much in the kin of the Trevor Ariza stuff, right? Can't judge this team until Trevor Ariza comes back. Can't judge this team and without a healthy Kendrick Nunn. Can't judge last year. And I predicted that. I tweeted this out on first day of or like 3 days before free agency. I said they're gonna sell you on Max Christie, Gabe Vincent, and Jared Vanderbilt. And then 2 weeks later, an article comes out about Lakers really believe that Gabe Vincent, Max Christie, and Jared Vanderbilt are seen as new additions. The Vando stuff is funny because I think he would have helped. I think both of us agree that Vando is a very helpful player when he's
he's an important guy for this team right now. Yeah,
he's an important guy. He's also not Scottie Pippen. Like he averages like 19 minutes a game on a good game. He also is hurt consistently. Like he wasn't out as much as he is now, but he always had things that were lingering because of the way he plays, very much in the Caruso style. And yeah, I think like waiting for him to come back to evaluate the team is insane. It's nonsense. This is the exact same roster from a year ago with a brand
Yeah,
new coaching staff, I guess, with obviously a couple guys healthy. But yeah, I think that point is, that hit it on the money, is evaluate the the guys that are running stuff. Like how many guys would survive this long of
yeah, it's
I
it's
think
it's, it's crazy. I and it's just it's not even like a lot of people go a little bit too far. I think they're like, oh, you got to sell the franchise and
right.
this guy should never have a job again and stuff like that. And I'm not trying to go there. Like that's not how real life works. And Genie has a real bond to
Hmm.
Raba, and so I don't think anything like that would ever happen. I don't even think they would actually ever fire him. They would probably just move him to another role, like maybe
Mm.
move him up and then put somebody below him, that sort of thing. Because I mean, honestly, like, what is Rob going to do if he leaves the Lakers? Like, I don't think any other company. He's gonna have to go back to being an agent, which is a very common thing for agents to do after they lose front office positions. So I don't think that's something that would happen. But for me, honestly, it's just if like I feel bad. I'm not sorry. I don't feel bad. I just don't think it's fair to constantly have this level of scrutiny on players, especially role players. Like we can't like we have this level of scrutiny on role players. Even our star players get it. Like we're gonna talk about it, but like this flip flopping with AD and LeBron that's been happening has been nuts to see people do. But we do it with our stars, our role players. We do it with Darvin Ham. We're doing it with JJ Redick. Um, why can't we do that with the organization? Why can't we do that with the GM? It's that's the person who's responsible for making these sort of decisions. And so I just think you at some point have to look in that direction.
I think it's similar to why I think coaches get burned first. It's just the
Hmm.
easiest one it's the lowest hanging fruit for any
Yeah,
fan or anyone watching, right? It's a position that you can directly put yourself in because their decisions seem to impact the moment, right? What sub did you do at that moment there's transactions. Like you can actually see who we put in, you can see who we sub, you can even see what play was run, you can see what timeout was called,
yeah,
right? That's why I think coaches get the blunt of the blame, but it's harder to do that with front offices. It's tougher. Those are like situations that are they hold a lot more power. They're in positions longer, right? Those seats don't get flipped as quickly as coaches do, and even
yeah,
as players do, which is why I think they get the most blame. One point that you hit on, Vinay, and I've seen this a lot. I don't think I can blame fans for this, but this is the closest. This is the most I've seen people be like, just blow it all up, just trade
yeah.
LeBron,
You're right.
trade AD. They're over this era. And I think what it is that they're the most that they've won is 52 games.
Hmm.
52 games. That's the most wins that Brian and AD have. And obviously that's from the 2020 season that was shortened because of the COVID stuff. But 52 wins, that's low. That's a very low mark for, two stars, and injuries obviously play a part in that.
Yeah,
But I think the supporting cast plays a lot of part in that. And I think people are just tired of this consistent just team that goes nowhere, that can't beat Denver, so
yeah,
I think that's interesting that a lot of fans are at this point of, hey, just blow it up, let's rebuild. And I don't think
yeah,
people understand how hellacious a rebuild is until you get into it.
yeah,
But I see a lot of people asking for that. I think that's very, very interesting.
yeah, yeah. Um, I think a lot of people, whatever that phrase is, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Right.
And that I think a lot of people feel that way. Um, Rod, you actually raised a really good point. Now that, and I didn't think about it, and I realized maybe I thought about it indirectly when I did the space, that you're saying like, there's a statistical analysis that you can do with players. This guy's good at this. We have all these analytics behind it, and then to some degree, you have some analytics behind what coaches do. Does he run
Yeah.
it? How often does he run the right lineups? Does he run sets? Offensive run rate was like a big thing this offseason. Like that was like
Hmm.
a huge thing. We don't have a way of evaluating GMs, and I think Eric Pink is a friend of the pod. He does a really wonderful. He's before done a really wonderful job, just kind of deconstructing and analyzing historically, like what the things the moves that the Lakers have made. Um, you could argue that like you can never really know what the other side of the coin is because it's sort of an unknown.
Right.
But the case that I was trying to make, not to harp on it too much longer, was like the business case. Like if I know that there's an operational cost, if this is a corporation, the Lakers were a corporation, and I have a head count, and my employees, the players, are those employees. That's part of my head count. How much money am I losing by the hiring manager or the person who's in charge hiring people who are not good at the jobs that you're hiring them to do? And and I'm a season ticket holder, right? I've had season tickets for over 10 years now, in the nosebleeds. If my ticket prices are going up 4%, 4 or 5% every year, like at some point, fans are going to be like, why are we like 4 or 5? I mean, Laker fans are always going to, there's always going to be a demand for them. But if I
Yeah,
was like on the back end, like if I'm Tim Harris, the CFO or whatever of the Lakers, I'm like, okay, we're raising ticket prices, but we're also like not winning more. We're like all this extra money we're making, it's not like leading to us more concessions or whatever it is on the back end. If in fact we're signing guys who keep getting hurt and then are not even working, like they're not
yeah,
even showing up to work. They're just chilling out, and it's not the players' fault. Players get hurt, but that's kind of the way that I try to make the case for it. And if I really cared, like if I was really a vindictive person, I'd probably go out of my way and make a business case for Rob to be relieved of his duties. But we care about the basketball, dude, and that's
yeah.
what this pod is about. So I think that's what we want to do. We want to talk about the basketball and try to get an idea
Yeah.
of the things that they need. Go ahead.
I think they're intertwined though, right? I think the business obviously is helpful with the basketball. There's no confusion that
Yep.
obviously the Lakers do better. The tickets are higher price when the team is winning. There's just and
Yeah.
that's for anything. That's for any business when it's successful. That's obviously when it's doing the best business wise. I think there is a case for that, right? It's just I think there's also a separation, and this is just a life thing. This is not a basketball thing. Basketball imitates life, or art imitates life, and
Yep.
so basketball in the same sense, it's just like, yeah, he might not be the best perfect person for the job, but he's also probably the most secure, right, for what the ownership wants. There's a lot of
Yep.
security and there's a lot of trust there, and I truly believe, Vinay, like after the Magic fiasco that went on First Take and just burned the organization, and uh you used a lot of company terms in your space. So I'll use another one, kind of spilling company secrets and stuff like that on public display. There's a level of, all right, here's my circle. This is the circle, and we're gonna go forward with this. And
Yep.
and a lot of people don't have entryways into it. And I think that's where the franchise is. I'm not of the belief that there will be no change. I think enough pressure in any point in any situation in life kind of causes change. But where we're at right now is like it's a very tricky situation, and it feels like we're in beds with a lot of stuff that is in basketball. There's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff that's going on where you're in beds and there's promises and there's favors and there's little deals, and all this stuff leads to why do 6 minimum players have player options?
Yeah. 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 Like it just doesn't it just doesn't make any sense. And I think you and I could both go through every single
Hmm.
move that's been made in recency and litigate so much of it very very easily. But that's not what we're trying to do.
Hmm.
So Raj, let's pivot here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Lakers since that Orlando game.
Oof.
And the Lakers have not had a very good record. They've been 3-7, I think, in the last 10, if I'm not mistaken. And so since the Orlando game, they basically had a 3-game losing streak. Win one against San Antonio, then
Yeah.
lose to OKC in a game where we lose, and it was a good game. It was a good game. We lose Austin Reeves in the OKC game,
Hmm.
and then basically from there, we've been operating without him. We proceed to go 2-3 since then. Lost to Utah, lost to Minnesota. Not just a loss, we got massacred by Minnesota,
Yeah.
and then go to Miami, get massacred again, even worse. To Miami, lose by 40 plus points, lose a tight one to Atlanta. Trae Young hits a game winner at the end of it, but there is a slight tweak in the starting lineup when that happens, which we'll discuss. And then obviously the win against Portland. Where do you want to start with? Like, what theme do you want to discuss
Yeah.
since Austin's been out?
Yeah. I think it's important, like, to start with, we played what, three good teams and got mauled by
Hmm.
all of them. You know, the Atlanta, you can kind of quibble with, are they a good team or not? They're at least playing well,
Yep.
but I'll put that to the side for right now. Phoenix, Minnesota, and Miami. Again, Miami was under 500 when we played them, so I mean it's not a great team, but they're a respectable organization with enough talent that can
Yep.
kind of beat you on any night. But now I'll start here. I think this defense is just atrocious. Like I
Mhm.
think it's an awful defense, and I think the win, like your win profile, is going to be playing at best with. We were a top 5 offense that has dripped off, and some of that is to do with Austin. Some of that has to do with LeBron's
Mhm.
long shooting slump that he broke out of against Atlanta. Obviously, sat the previous game that we just won against Portland. But yeah, I'll start there. I think the defense has just been awful, and you've kind of noted the transition stuff. I've been heavy kind of picking on the switching that I think is just absolutely unnecessary, and I think it's used to kind of protect other players, and I think it's gotten out of hand. I don't know. I think there's an identity kind of crisis on the defensive end for us,
Yeah.
and I don't know. Like, how do you go forward when with the defense this bad? I think you and others have kind of brought up its personnel, and I agree there is some personnel issues with that, and I think that's
Yeah.
why I joked that Cam Reddish is going to play on this team, and I've been right. Cam Reddish has played in pretty much every game
Yeah.
this season, and he's a legit part of the rotation. It's so much that JJ Redick is starting Gabe Vincent over D'Angelo Russell, which is
Yeah, which is something we're definitely gonna
yeah,
discuss
yeah,
because that was a turning point defensively for the team. But
yeah, has upset some of the groups in
yeah,
our
I mean, it
in our
upset the
in our
D'Lo.
fandom.
Yeah, it upset the D'Lo stance. I think Roger. I think we're objective enough on the pod where we could discuss these fan bases now, because folks know that we really want us to win. Let's stick to that. Okay, so JJ, I want to give credit to JJ because JJ is desperately trying to find something that'll make the defense work. And as much as you and I absolutely hate the fact that he's having these guys switch as much as he does,
Yeah,
I
yeah. Why is he
don't think
switching? Why do you think he's switching so
so.
much?
So I'll say this: I don't think he's telling them to switch everything. I don't think he's just saying, "Hey, every single screen that possibly you get hit with, whether it's a good screen or not a good screen, switch it." I don't think that's what he's saying.
Mm,
I think the players are just taking it upon themselves to like, yeah, F it. I'm just gonna switch this, and it's hurting the Lakers a lot. And so the reason why I want to say it is this, um, is because something is going on the back end where, and JJ said it about 2-3 times during this losing streak, maybe throughout the season. I know he definitely did say it during the streak where I want to say 2 or 3 games in a row, he specifically said that whatever the staff is telling the players are straight up not doing it on the floor. Like
mm.
like they're talking about doing some sort of something with their coverages, or something with their game execution. I don't think it's about their offense because I think the offense has been fine. I mean, it's not been fine; it's been down, but I think it's been about the defense. And then he's like just kind of been shaking his head about the lack of coverages. And so I suspect he wants them to switch in certain situations, but he doesn't want them to switch in certain situations. And they're just doing whatever. It's not just us. Other teams are picking on the fact that we're really bad at switching.
Oh yeah,
We give up the switches. So, like Miami, their entire game plan was we're going to try and make you switch as much as possible to get exactly the matchup that we want, and then we're going to attack the matchup we want. So it's a problem. I don't think, honestly, Raj, I don't think you can get around it. I think it is too much of a personnel issue. I know some folks have said drop coverage helps. I think you can try and mix some of that stuff into as well, mixing
yeah.
in double teams as well. But I think at its core, the issue is that we don't have the personnel to do the kind of stuff that JJ maybe wants to do
Yeah,
on defense.
we definitely don't have a 1 through 5 switching personnel.
Yeah,
That's not
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
we
Yeah.
don't have that. I think the death comes, Vinay, and we die so early. Like if you watch other teams like defensive possessions, there's a mistake that happens, later in the shot clock,
Hmm.
and the team gets an open look. But that's not every play. But us, to me, the death, and it's not a death by 1,000 cuts. It's really one cut. It's 80 switches on the top,
Yeah.
and it's over.
Yeah.
Like it's Gabe, it's D'Lo, it's whatever small guard you want to put on the other team's center. Atlanta picked on this. You mentioned Miami picked on this, and it puts AD in a rough spot as well because AD is looked at as the hub, not defensive hub, right? He's
Yeah.
the help defender. And you could tell. And there's plays where he's so distracted by him needing to help. Jimmy Butler got like 3 straight layups on him, and Jimmy Butler's not a. I mean, he's a good driver, but I mean, he went right by AD a few times because I think AD was just looking at where he's got to help from. I think from those situations, there's places where they need to help, and I've said this all along. I think switching just it creates a passiveness in the team.
Yeah.
It's a passive style of defense, and you're literally passing your defender to another player without it being earned,
Yeah.
right? Like no screen, no scheme is kind of how in basketball terminology. I think that's where it needs to start from, and this level of accountability. Like I get personnel, we don't have it, but if we don't have 29th in the league defensive personnel, like I just the Wizards the Wizards are like 29th in the league defensively.
Yeah.
And they don't have an Anthony Davis on their team.
Yeah.
They have whoever they have. They might have a center that might be on
Jonas, the
yeah.
guy that
Yeah,
apparently the Lakers are
that's what I was
targeting.
gonna say. Yeah, they might have a guy that we might
Jokic
get.
dropped like 56 on him or something like that. So recently, no, I'm with you, Raj. I think there is something about pride because I think effort and pride is a big it's a core part of defense. Ability is one part, but then effort is a huge part of motor, defensive motor. That is different. There's an interesting quote that came out, I think, after the Miami game or maybe after the Atlanta game, where JJ said that he told his guys in the second half that they could take more off-ball fouls if they wanted to, if that meant that they'd increase the physicality, and he didn't see that happen. He was just like, if you foul them, as they're trying to do whatever. So I want to just center on that for a second because that is a very, very interesting challenge to give to your team in the second half of a game where you're already getting run off the floor in the first half. That's almost as if JJ is challenging his players and saying, do you guys have pride in yourselves? Like as I'm saying it this way. I don't think he said it this way, but like, do you have pride in yourselves as like men, like as basketball players, like to go like battle, what I mean? Like go fight these guys and don't just let them get to where run the plays or whatever that they want them to run. And the fact that he had to do that, Raj, and the fact that he mentioned that also post game, like I almost feel like JJ's trying to tell fans, like, I'm trying to do everything I can. I'm literally telling them, go ahead and foul people. I don't even care if you get stupid fouls, just wrestling with guys. Just go do it. And the team is not responding to him. So I think that's a very tough position to be in.
Yeah, and I think JJ doesn't want to play the my team was soft card.
Yeah,
while you're over.
That's
500.
a Hamism. That's something that Ham would do. Ham would be like, yeah, we didn't have it tonight. We didn't.
Right.
They played with force. We didn't play with force. But yeah,
you're seeing little Hamisms leak out.
he's got the JJ-isms and the Hamisms are exactly the same. The only difference is JJ can dress it up to make it sound way smarter than it really is. But go for it. Continue your thought.
No, for sure. I think JJ doesn't want to play. That's a tough card to play.
Yeah,
right now when you're over 500 and you're still winning at a respectable pace even with the losing streak. But I do think like that's a fascinating challenge. Hey, go ahead and foul 3 times. Go ahead, like go do it. I won't pull you out of the game.
Yeah.
I won't be mad at you.
I won't penalize you for it.
Yeah, be physical, and they just didn't do that. And again, I think teams are like. If you watch the Atlanta game, Vinay, it felt like Trae Young didn't break a sweat running that offense. I mean, they blitzed him and he just hit the roll man every time, got layups. They switched it. He got the guy inside. I'm asking for a little bit of resistance. And we're playing defensive minded players. Like you can quibble with the talent, but you have Gabe Vincent's out there for his defense. He's shooting better, but Cam Reddish is out there for his defense. Max Christie's out there for his defense. Anthony Davis is out there. I just named 4 guys out of your 9 rotation defensively. And you're getting thrown off the floor. I can't move forward with this team until that gets better and gets from like 29 to at least like 20th. Can you be a middling team on the defensive end? And I think that shoots your ceiling up if the offense is what we think it is. But so far, I mean, we beat Portland, but you look at the games, Denver, Minnesota, and Phoenix, all those 20-point drubbings. we are bottom 4 now, and just total net rating in the league, just in total. We're like,
Raj,
yeah,
Raj, this is worse. Their defensive rating is worse than when Ham was the coach. So that like and it's not like it was great, but they were like 19th for the second half of that season for 30 games. For
yeah,
you to be even worse with a better coach, and I know some people are like, "Oh, maybe it's a coach, maybe it's 1 year older of LeBron." Also, Vando's not there, Wood is not there, but even then, we can't be this bad. This is like awful. And your two stars have played most of the games. Like you can't be this bad. Like this is genuinely awful for us to be there. What else? Do you have any other thoughts about the defense?
yeah. No, I mean, I think we're, and just you mentioned Vando, and he didn't really play last year either. I mean, I
Yeah, he
got a
did.
few games. Yeah, played the played in the in season tournament, which was a year ago from yesterday, I believe it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
So,
Basically,
uh,
I was in Vegas for the championship game, so I watched
yeah,
him. Yeah,
fun times that were like a year ago. Everything seemed right in the world, and then right after that, they kind of got fat and happy with the wins and the money that came from that, maybe. But no, I think that's been the story for me. The people I picked on the shooting, LeBron shooting, and I never was really too worried about him not being able to hit shots. We can get into the decline or not, I guess, a little bit later if you
yeah.
want, but just the defense to me has been really standing out. The switching just it's starting to get loud. I seen the national kind of even audience going like, "Hey, why is Gabe Vincent guarding Bam out of bio for like?"
The Atlanta game, they kept doing a 1-5 switch, and like Onyeka was, and then they had like D'Lo and AD switch it, and then Trey is too good of a passer, dude. Like he's not only is he gonna get the ball to Onyeka, he's gonna throw it like with enough velocity that your rotation help guy is not gonna be able to get there in time for him to finish, like to help D'Lo out. And D'Lo was trying to front it. Gabe was trying to front it. I thought that Atlanta game, and we can talk about the Gabe substitution. I thought
Yeah,
that Gabe in so after the Miami game and then the quote that happened about him, players having more pride defensively. And then in the Atlanta game where he basically sends D'Lo back to the bench and starts Gabe, like we lost that game, obviously, and we still did some of the stuff that the switching stuff that hurt us. But it felt like the team was a little more locked in defensively in that game. Like they were battling for defensive rebounds.
yeah,
They were um, they were scrapping on possessions. I thought Gabe did a nicer job scrapping on possessions, which Trey finishes with 30 and 20. I don't really know if that would have even made a difference, who was in
yeah,
front of him at that point. But there seems to be like a very clear, but Atlanta was a very good team. They were on like a 5-game win streak. They are an extremely athletic team. If Laker fans have not
sure,
watched the Hawks play, when they played Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels and that Zachary
Ricochet. Hmm.
Ricochet, yeah, when they played them, all three of those guys at the same time, that team is a problem, dude. They run every single possession that they can
Yeah,
get. Any one of those guys can bring the ball up the floor too. On top of that, so um, I thought for a team that was like, I went into that Atlanta game thinking to myself, if we play like we did against Minnesota and Miami, we're gonna get beat by 50. Like we're gonna get beat
yeah,
bad. And Braun had a spectacular game offensively, which I think he always does when he goes to Atlanta, when he's in Atlanta. So that certainly helped too as well. But I thought the defense was better. Like, did you see a difference in the defense that you saw from
yeah.
Atlanta
Yeah. Another
versus
player,
the
by the
previous
way,
game? Yeah,
another player, DeAndre Hunter. I thought was great down the
crazy
stretch as well. Just hit
monster.
jump shots.
Bogdanovich, dude.
Oh yeah,
We're a big fan. You and I have always talked about him as like a trade target every trade deadline. Just
yeah.
comes in, laces like 4 threes, 5 threes. It's nuts.
Gamer too, like
Yeah,
competitive. Yeah, no, yeah, I saw some improvements, and it's funny. Like second coaching staff comes to the same exact conclusion
yeah,
that, hey, I can't start these guards that don't defend.
yep.
And it's just funny to watch that happen. And Gabe Vincent has now entered. Gabe Vincent again. I think he's shooting a little bit better, but there's
Yeah.
still some just where's the you saw it a little bit in Miami. I thought he had like an early three. In Atlanta, there was some confidence. He had some step back jump shots and hit a big three that I thought would put
Huge,
the
yeah,
yeah,
huge. Did you see? He was finding runs the pick and roll to Anthony Davis,
yeah,
holds the live dribble long enough for Anthony Davis to set up the. There was one where he looked off LeBron. They ran a pick and roll the way Austin and AD would do it. It was late game, and LeBron was open on the right wing, above the
Mhm.
wing, above the break wing, right above the break wing, and Gabe holds it, I think with a left hand dribble, and I was just like, oh my god, if he shoots this and LeBron's wide open, he's gonna be pissed. Like Bron's gonna be pissed because Bron was having a good shooting game at that point. Um, and he holds it and then he throws it up, and I was just like, I don't know if this is a shot or what this is. And Anthony Davis just goes, grabs it, and dunks it. And I was
Yeah.
just, thank goodness, like that. But that's what the Lakers needed. They didn't want to rely on jump shots. You got to keep feeding your big guy. Go ahead.
Right. And I think you talked about this too in your space, but you were saying like how Gabe Vincent, naturally played better because he's obviously getting more touches and he's in
Yeah,
a better rhythm and he's starting, which, I think there's credence to that as well. And look, we have Dennis Schroeder rumors coming back out again that are starting to turn up, but
yeah,
I'm tired of 6'1" guards being, our defensive stoppers. I think there's a way there's a way to infiltrate that into your team, but those shouldn't be the guys that you rely on to, hey, go guard the other team's apex predator, which we seem to do a lot of times. Gabe Vincent thrown on Jimmy Butler, just in very strange
yeah,
moments. But I thought there was a little bit more fight. I thought Gabe's a guard that likes to chase over. I think Max is also that way. And
yeah,
in Portland, we kind of did a cut. We didn't switch as much, and again, Portland's just not the same type of offensive talent, so tough to judge the defensive scheme versus what the team was.
for
But
sure.
Gabe's playing well. He's playing better. This is what you would ask for. He's not Miami Gabe yet, or Lisan all Gabe, as I'm seeing people put
So
out there.
shout out also to Max. Max had the block on Trey Young to send it into
Yes,
overtime. That was it. That was a huge play. He was having a great game before he fouled out. So he probably would have been down there down the stretch. Let me ask you this question, Raj, and we'll button up the defense part during the stretch. Should the Lakers be playing more drop coverage?
I think they should definitely install it a bit more. I think it caters to, at least it caters to Gabe. It caters to Max. I think it's just more of a traditional style defense. Now there's negative aspects of it, but like when I look at AD, man, like obviously I think he can switch. He's a good switch defender. We believe like he has a bunch of defensive talents, but I think what he's generational at is as a help guy, as a guy
Mhm.
that can maneuver and help on different sides of the floor. And it's tough to do that when you're now responsible for a player that's outside the paint.
Yeah,
And teams aren't switching AD on just nobodies. Like they're putting him on, whatever their best ball screen operator is. He's the guy that is creating these screen options where AD has to make the decision. And he usually has to stick out because the guard's late or doesn't fight over or has quit on the screen or
yeah,
whatever it is. So I think like the drop at least keeps it, a little bit more 2-on-2 and allows AD to hover inside the paint a bit
yeah,
more than he gets to. Like
yeah. I think
love everything, but it'll help.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think they should consider putting that in there. If for nothing else, for you to allow AD to wipe out like the space between the rim runner and the ball handler, which is something that he's super elite at,
Yeah,
versus just standing out on the perimeter watching his guys be really helpless. He can't even come to crash the glass, honestly. Like he has to go and break
right.
out the other way. So it creates a whole different level of issues. So I think we're on the same page. I don't know how much more they have to increase it, or if it's team by team, lineup by lineup. Depending on what the opposing lineup is. Portland had a bunch of guys who couldn't shoot, so they ran it, so it worked out. But they had a lot of wide open threes that just didn't go down, and if they did, could have been a bad night for us.
Oh man, they cut the lead to 3, and
Yeah,
the third. My only point with this has been is like make teams earn the switch. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like if
I'm,
you're
I'm
gonna
with you.
switch, like that's fine, but make them earn it. A brush screen is not a license to give your guy up, and the Lakers do that all the time. Go look at the screens Atlanta was doing. It was just hey, here's a little walk in. Yeah, here's the switch. Like Lakers aren't alone in this. In fact, a lot of teams do this, especially late in the games, but Lakers do this all game, and it's
Yeah,
just frustrating to watch.
yeah, I'm with you all the way. Uh, Next theme, Raj. LeBron James goes through a little bit of a slump, maybe about
Mm,
4 or 5 games where he can't hit a three for the life of him. Good ones, wide open ones, any type
mm-hmm.
of ones that you see. And he has a stretch of sort of bad basketball too, as well. Has
Yeah.
uh, Orlando game, he's okay. There's some situational stuff I'm going to ask you about LeBron too, because I think it needs to be discussed. But before we get into that, 7 of 17 against Denver, doesn't have a
Mhm.
great shooting game. 7 of 16 the very next game, mind you. Not just LeBron James, Anthony Davis also having awful games alongside LeBron. as well, while not giving us the defense that the team needs. Um, 8 of 18, 5 of 13. The reason why I'm talking about 4 of 16 against Minnesota, the reason why I'm talking about these stats is because after maybe about a 4 or 5 game stretch of basketball, the Wolves are out. The Sharks smell the blood in the water, and immediately, most of the national media folks who you and I respect, but also have a little bit of, like, okay, I don't think you guys really watch Lakers basketball the way you guys say you do. They're out for blood, and they're telling people that LeBron is washed. I literally overnight after one of the games, all I could see on my timeline was, "Is LeBron washed? Is LeBron washed? Is LeBron washed?" And I was
Yeah,
just like, "Bro, he just hasn't made a three, or he hasn't made a couple of shots. Like he's had a couple of bad shooting games. Like I don't think he's washed."
yeah,
LeBron responds with a monster game against Miami, which they do lose, but he has a 29-point game. Looks really good. Um, Something about going to Miami. A lot of people make that joke. Something about going to Miami. That really gets
something in the
around.
water.
Something in the water. And then he has a phenomenal 39-point game against Atlanta. Then he sits out the game against Portland. Looks like he's kind of bounced back. That three ball came back a little bit. Obviously, it's a small sample size, 2 games. Are you concerned that and then LeBron's turnovers have continued to be
Yeah,
really high, 6, 5, 4 every game? Where are you at, like,
yeah.
with your level of concern about Braun?
So it's funny. I think people confuse what a decline is, or
Mhm.
right, or what that looks like, and so every time he hits this ceiling, and I think there's extreme levels on this, right? There's people who are like, oh, he's done, retire tomorrow, which is not happening. As a
Yeah.
pretty nice player option waiting for him at the end of the season,
Yeah, I don't think he's not retiring,
but
yeah.
then there's the other end of when he has that Atlanta game. It's oh you idiots, like look at what you did, and I look at it through a different lens, Renee. It's I think the ceiling doesn't change.
Mhm.
Like he can still hit this 39 and 15 and whatever he had against Atlanta. I don't have the stats in front of me. What changes is the floor. And
Yeah.
I don't right. And so I don't think he's washed. I think that's a term that we overuse, but I do think LeBron's floor is different. I don't think he can give you I don't think he's giving you 28, 8 and 8 nightly
Mm.
anymore. And what I mean by that is like obviously I don't just mean 28 points. To average 28, 8 and 8, there's 35s, 37s,
Yeah.
36s mixed in there with the 20-point game. Now it's like, it takes a lot more out of the tank to get to 30 for him.
Yeah.
That's what I called the Atlanta loss a disaster, Vinay, because he played 43 minutes, and those weren't light minutes. Those were rough foot on the gas minutes that he had to play against. You mentioned their defense. Dyson Daniels picking him up full court every time, switching off with DeAndre Hunter. Like the Hawks throw very long defenders at you who can
Yeah.
move their feet, and that's a tough offensive night for him. So I'm not concerned. Again, I think in a series like environment, LeBron can still reach those heights on a more consistent basis. I think in the regular season, I think the Lakers need to kind of adjust what what they look for from LeBron. I think expecting him to just run the offense for whatever it is, as many possessions, I just don't think that's sustainable anymore for him. Sat out against Portland, has 5 days off against until we play I believe Memphis on Friday, if I have
Yeah.
that correctly. Memphis is another team that just gives I don't think it's a coincidence that like these good teams create high turnover nights. These teams that win in the West give him not trouble, that's not the right word, but just make it more difficult for him.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. Where are you at with the decline or no decline?
Yeah, so I'm not there with the whole decline thing.
Yeah.
I think his selectiveness has become more selective than ever. Like
Mm,
I think his "I'm gonna take over this game" has become very selective, because I think there is a game of attrition that he's trying to work his way through over the course of the season. Obviously, he says he's want to play 82 games, which I don't think is reasonable. So I think maybe, depending on what the record is, we'll see what ends up happening with that. There's also so I also want to contextualize some of what you were saying, because I think you're making a really nice point about the floor of the team, or the LeBron's floor this season being like lower. There's I think part of the reason for the floor being lower is because of, and it's not, I won't say like this is like 80% of the reason why, but I would certainly say this is closer to like 40, if I had to give a percentage, like 40% of the reason why the floor is lower is because of how he's getting refereed. Like
Mm,
Braun is not getting calls. It is getting bad. Okay. I want to read you the free throw attempts that LeBron had starting with that Orlando game, which is kind of where that slide sort of the funk he's been in. I started having Orlando. He attempts 4 free throws. Then after that, here's how many free throws he's attempted: 3, 2, 0, 2, 3, 4, 4, and then he has 6 against Atlanta. Like Raj, for a guy that gets in the paint as much as he does, like it is, and I'm not saying he's not earning them. Like if you're a Lakers fan or a Bron fan, whatever, like they're missing very, very basic stuff that Braun is should be getting fouls for. And I think that's where, like, dude, honest, like I casually, so I'm not even gonna pretend like I'm like, even if I play regular rec ball, okay,
sure.
I play in a game where I'm getting fouled and on rim attacks by like a bigger dude, or I get fouled hard repeatedly and the refs just don't call it. That's draining, dude. And I wonder if that's he's trying to balance that. Like, I'm not getting calls. I'm trying to make three. So I'm taking more threes. And if I don't make those threes, that hurts us too as well. Um, and then I'm just trying to keep legs fresh for the end of the game.
Yeah, well, I just, it's funny, because I think if you talk to Braun fans, right, and there's a lot of them, and they'll make the point, which I think is valid,
Yeah,
that he's never got calls, and I think if you watch his Laker tenure, I think that kind of fits, right? Like
yeah,
LeBron's a
yeah,
player that you think gets called. I'm not countering your point, Vinay, of like of this not being a factor.
sure.
I think this is the way he's been called, but
Mm,
I think he used to be able to finish through these, right?
mm.
And these are like you could tell, like the
Now he's missing him.
finishing,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, he just can't hit contested, and like not that a player should be able to. I'm just like this is how
yeah,
LeBron's career, but he's been so, and he's still very athletically gifted. He's still in the top percent of whatever NBA athletes are, but he's getting stripped more, right? Like teams, like even if they hit the arm, they are getting some of the ball, and like he used to have the power to finish through.
yeah,
He's finished through contact, and again, I'm not blaming LeBron for this. He's a 40-year-old guy that's with 25-year-old specimen athletes trying to stop him at the basket. I'm watching him. Yeah, some of these are calls, but some of these are also like LeBron used to put 2 guys in the basket, and now it's like he's trying to finesse a up and under, layup, and it's off, or there's a lot of those where if you watch LeBron, especially in the replays, he'll miss a layup and he'll like clap his hands, like he's like, oh, like I used to make that,
yeah,
every single time, and now it's spinning off, and that little percentage off doesn't seem like a lot, but like if you used to shoot 70 something percent at the rim and now you're shooting like 56, like it changes how
sure.
you attack, it changes your whole offensive game plan. I think he's also shooting more jump shots. I think that's part of it too. Again, the calls are the calls. Like he's obviously earned fouls that he's not getting.
Yeah,
But I also think this is like there's some of this of coming down not to earth, but at least hitting clouds. Like
yeah.
this is how you guys live. Like this is like other stars.
This is yeah. This is probably the closest thing to mortality that we're seeing out of this guy because he's
That's
been so
yeah,
good for so long. No, I'm with you there. It's probably a mix of both. It's just fascinating. Like you lose that Atlanta game by 2, you could argue that
yeah,
maybe there's a few free throws that go his way are the difference between us winning and losing the game. Obviously, that's not a singular thing, but it's just it's interesting seeing that during the stretch where he was playing poorly, he wasn't drawing, he wasn't making threes, and then he
mm,
also wasn't drawing fouls at the rim. And when I
yeah,
think both of those things happen, you get like 15-point nights, 18-point nights from LeBron. Like that's the difference between him getting you to 25 versus for what. And so like when that happens in the same game, he's not making threes and he's not getting calls in the room, it gets really tough for that's when the floor is really low from him.
yeah.
And I don't think anybody would disagree with that. um I have a question for you, Raj, because this has
Mm,
come up a couple times. This happened in the Orlando game. This happened in the Atlanta game. Now, I'm not saying this, Braun fans. I'm not saying this is the reason why we lost those games. I just want to ask the question because I'm okay with it, but I know there are people who are not okay with it because I see it on
mm,
the timeline. Um, and Braun takes these late game threes, and they are contested threes. They are. I think the last one I remember him making like crucial, like a really close crucial one, was like against the Pelicans, if I'm not mistaken. I think he had 2 back to back
oh
ones
yeah,
in a tight game. Um,
Terrible
But
shots. They were. I
but Braun
think
is
it was 0 for
taking
5 before that, but yeah.
yeah, Braun is taking these late game threes, and I'm not saying he can't do that. And I full context. This is the way I rationalize it to myself. This is why I don't get upset. Okay, so fans understand this. I watched Kobe Bryant for 20 years. Kobe used to take
Mm,
bad shots at the end of some games, and
sure.
not many games. When he made them, we loved him for it, and when he missed them, we were in our mind. Sometimes we would be upset, but for the most part, we were like, you know what, you got to ride it out with your superstar. I feel the same way about this when it comes to
Mm,
LeBron. However, there are people, there are folks within the fan base that would argue that that's not a good shot for LeBron. And granted, during this stretch recently, we haven't had Austin Reeves, so there's no alternate person for the Lakers to go through. Um, but the shot itself isn't what bothers me, Raj.
mm,
It's the momentum breaking nature of that shot because I'm going to dribble this around for 23 seconds of the shot clock to set this shot up. It's usually a switch. There's no double team. It's a bigger dude that's on LeBron. They're trying to force him to take that shot with as much under as much duress as he can. And I don't know if in late game situations that should be a thing. I don't want to know your feelings about it. I want to know, should JJ be calling something in that instance, or should he let his guy ride it out?
yeah, it's so funny because you said they don't have Austin Reeves, so they don't have
Yeah.
another offensive option, and I've seen that said other places, and I guess I agree from a ball handler standpoint, but I
Yeah.
mean, Anthony Davis is also on the floor. I mean, there's ways to I would hope to involve both of them together, and that's been a gripe I've had. Not just this year, just entire in their run in
Mhm.
late game situations. We don't really run a lot of LeBron and AD stuff, and you can get it to people team switch that, so it doesn't really create an advantage. Yeah, it's tough because I think this is not a LeBron thing. This is a superstar in the league thing, right?
Yeah.
People, even after Jason Tatum won the championship, there's obviously Jalen Brown won the Finals MVP, but even if you watch Boston late game situations, it's Tatum dribbling the clock out and then taking a step back three,
Yeah.
and people rip their hairs out, and it's like Boston runs the most. It pains me to say it, but like they run a very beautiful offensive system. They have
Yeah.
a lot of drive and kick, a lot of beautiful basketball, but even then in late game situations, so it's tough to say. I think our best offense in late game has been like a guard screening for LeBron. That's kind of
Yeah.
when we've had our best actions. And so that's something I'd like to go to. But to your point, Austin's not there. But I mean, D'Lo's on the floor. There's other options
Yeah.
there, and but I think against Atlanta, which you're referring to, LeBron was hot. So
Yeah. So
that's why he.
I understand why he took it. He was like
Yeah,
5 for 8 at that point. Yeah.
yeah, and look, like it was overtime already, if I believe
Yeah.
when he took that one. So I
It's
just
actually not even that one, Raj. It's not. I'm not even the one that bothers me is not even the overtime one. He actually had one in regulation that he
okay.
took when I think the Lakers were kind of rolling, and then he decided to take a three. I
Mm,
want to say it was above the break on the right hand side, and it was one of the ones where it's like we were getting shots at the rim, and I was just
mm.
like, oh, why don't we just keep putting pressure on them, and we
Yeah.
kind of played that prevent offense three. But
Oh, we
that
we
was the
have
one
the
that bothered
worst.
me a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, we have the worst prevent offense in the league, in my opinion. Like we
Yeah.
we start holding the ball with like 7 minutes left. Atlanta was kind of a similar situation. I thought we had that game won. I was in South Bay for that, and I was just watching while the team was playing. I was like, oh, we're up 6. I think we got
Yeah.
it, and started to do that prevent offense. But no, it's tough. Like I mean, again, this is the conversation we had all summer. But you're gonna go to LeBron and be like, hey, you can't take a fourth quarter three, or or run an action for Dalton. Who knows? I don't think Dalton was on the floor against Atlanta. I think they decided to close
Yeah.
with Gabe and
Is it Gabe and Max until Max fouled out, I think,
yeah,
and then they put
Gabe,
D'Lo
yeah,
in. Yeah.
they put D'Lo in, yeah. So Dalton wasn't even in the action. But yeah, you have a star that's hot. Like again, I don't think that's a LeBron thing. I'm not upset at that. At least
Yeah.
for that night, I would like some more creativity, but I think that's an NBA
Yeah.
thing that goes on.
Okay. Well, it wouldn't be fair if we just talked about LeBron. Anthony Davis doesn't look good either during this
Oof.
stretch for a little while. So we don't have to do deep dives. Like he's apparently dealing with plantar fasciitis in his left foot. Miami game felt like he was slow to he was like almost 2 rotations behind everything that was happening in Miami, and I think that was by design. Miami was picking on him to try and get him out on the perimeter and make it so he couldn't help. But AD has also looked less like himself, especially defensively, for a little bit. Where are you with what do you think is going on with him? Is it just a
Yeah.
slump like LeBron,
You,
or is it something more?
yeah. I mean, you brought up the planner stuff. It's tough for me to evaluate because every time a guy plays well, he's feeling
He's
good, and
great.
then when
Yeah.
he doesn't play well, it's plantar fasciitis. And I'm not saying he's not dealing with something. It's just kind of put that to the side. If you're on the floor, then I kind of have to evaluate you on the floor. He was awesome. I thought against Portland was like incredible defensively, offensively. The
Yeah.
jumper was going, and I think that's what's kind of stuck. I mean, it's like the confidence that waxes and wanes with his jump shot. Like he wears it on his freaking sleeve. Like you can
Yeah.
tell when he's feeling it, and you can tell when he's not. And when he is, I think this is just an entirely different team. Against Atlanta, it was a lot of clutch jump shots, a lot of picking pops that were going. But against the better teams, and we talk about this a lot, they just don't fear that as a threat. Like Denver gladly gives that up, Minnesota
Yeah.
gladly gives that up, Phoenix gladly gives that up, and those are when the 15-point game happens, the 18-point game
Yeah.
happens. And that's something like he needs to figure that out. Like I'm not trying to be picky, but I think when you're Anthony Davis, I think the bar is higher than what you set for a normal player. But yeah, it's tough. I think he needs a few games off, but can we afford Anthony Davis sitting games at?
No, not right now. That we don't have a like we're gonna play what Christian Coloco like as his backup. We certainly don't have, or we're gonna play Rui at center or Braun at
Yeah,
center at that
yeah.
rate. Um,
That's where I'm like at with him. It's just he has to play, and he has such a large like responsibility on the floor. And like it's tough to know, and obviously the switching stuff I think hurts, and he looks the most frustrated. Like if you watch him,
yeah,
just every
yeah,
time watching guys get blown by and not come and help him on box outs and all that stuff, and watching guards just stare at the ball as he's trying to box out 3 or 4 people. There was a position against Atlanta, I forgot. I think it was like Capella, and he picked up because someone let their guy go down, and he picked up, he helped the helper, and no one came down to box out Capella, who got like an offensive rebound. And you could
mhm.
see him just like, hey guys, I need some help too. So I don't know. It's tough to kind of evaluate where he's at, but yeah, Gray Raj is pointing out he's played 140 out of 150 games. I mean, he's been available. There's some
Yeah,
games against great teams that I think he struggled, and there's some mind games against Denver that Renee, there's a bridge he has to cross against that team, and
yeah.
I
Or you
I don't.
or you got to get a goon for me, man. Rob has got to go get a goon. That's like Dwight. Dwight, that story. Not to go on
Oh
it too
yeah.
much, but Dwight said he spent the entire season studying Jokic because he's just like, we're gonna
Mm,
have to play this dude. This guy's a really good player, and he studied all his habits and stuff like that. And like, we need an insane person like that on the roster, or just a guy who takes that task personally. If it's not going to be Anthony Davis, I'll say this, Raj. LeBron not playing well has sort of masked the fact that AD hasn't played well. He had 2 games,
mm,
the Minnesota and Miami game, where he had 20 points combined between those 2 games. He shot really
yeah.
poorly. I'll say this. If AD is going to be this transparent with his bad offensive games, if we're going to be able to tell within the first quarter that AD is going to have a bad offensive game and he's aware of it too, to the point where we can see it in his body language, I need him to just go and tell his teammates or tell his coach, yo, I don't have it offensively tonight, but I'm going to go shut it down on the defensive end and just tell them, just go run drop coverage and I'll clean up everything on the backside. But you guys got to help me out on offense. Like there has to be some like level
Communication.
of like leadership on his part at this point. Like it can't be, I hope they can read my body language and they'll adjust to what I'm saying. Like I need him to like just be like, I'm having a garbage offensive night. You know what I mean? Like if LeBron can go post game and say, my offense is not good right now. And I just have to work through my slump. I think AD can go, he doesn't have to tell us, the fans. I think he can go to JJ and his teammates and be like, I can't make shit right now. Like I'm not making any jump shots. Like let's do, let's try and get shots at the rim. Like I'll cover for you guys. Like that's real leadership, dude. Like and
Yeah.
and I need that. I need that from him. I've seen LeBron when he has bad shooting games this season go into full facilitator mode and get like rack up 14, 15 assists. So I need AD to tap into what he is good at defensively and help the team out.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. I think it's tough because I think a lot of our offense kind of stems from the rim gravity that AD
Yeah,
creates
yeah,
on
for sure.
lobs, and then we really try to. I think we've tried to feed him a little bit more, and like against Portland, the first quarter, Renee was just, hey, go make fadeaways over DeAndre, and I think he missed a lot of them, and we were down 28-22 at the end of the first, before I think Rui got hot. I think that's a tough place for AD to be like, hey, yeah, I can't help you offensively, and he should be able to do that maybe on this team with the offensive options that we have. So much of our stuff kind of runs through him, and it's important. I think this team's ceiling just jumps when his jumper's going, and
For sure.
I don't know how you calculate that on a night to night basis where like good teams don't respect it, but
Mhm.
like it, he also shoots them with more confidence and just freedom against the bottom dweller teams, like against
Yeah, I mean,
Portland. They
yeah, he's gonna rack it up against the bad teams, but I mean, like I said, like there has to be. It comes in the form of leadership, right? Like
mm,
I've seen, famously Kevin Durant always argues with people on Twitter about this, like what is leadership? Like what does leadership
right,
mean? And one of the things that he always says is like, oh, if I'm passing it to my open teammate, am I not helping? Does that not gravity? Is that not? If I'm commanding a double team, even if I haven't been having a good shooting night, am I not like
right.
helping facilitate being a playmaker for the offense? And I don't know what the definition needs to be for Anthony Davis to understand it, but he's really, really got to understand that he like he can't be a mystery box player. He can't be a mystery box of
Yeah,
what we're gonna get out of you. You know what I mean? Like if we can at least, if your jumper's not falling, if we can get quality screening and rim running, I think that's gonna go a long way, even in the games where he's not shooting well. And I don't know if that has to be told to him, reinforced to him, or if it's just something he has to come to himself. But like at the bare minimum, Rudy Gobert has no offensive skill, like none. Like he has
yeah,
terrible hands too. It's like been his biggest issue, but he can carve out 13 points a game off the strength of good screening and dunks, just being available, being there for when his teammates need him in the right spot. So I think Anthony Davis is very capable of that. I don't think it's unfair for Laker fans to expect that out of him.
what what do you think's the biggest difference between he's still averaging 27, but I think a lot of that was what he was doing earlier. What do you like, have you seen anything that's a big difference between when he was averaging like 30 versus now he's averaging like
I
23 and
think I think the I
putting the
don't think
foot aside, the plantar
yeah
fascia stuff aside?
you know the I don't think the same way that you say that the same way that you say the jump shooting affects his like on court body language and personality, like his belief that he's going to make it. I
Yeah.
think the defense does that too. When he sees
Mm,
the Lakers as a defense be horrendous, I feel like that has a snowball effect on him. It affects
mm,
him in ways because he kind of knows he's supposed to be like the anchor of the defense, and then he watches like the defense just kind of get exposed over and over again. I think that messes him up, and when that happens, it completely throws him off. Like it's a very like you and I always do like the psychology stuff when it comes to certain players. We've done that with Rui. We've done it with Dalton about why one of them should start. We've done it with like D'Lo and Austin. Some of it's basketball ability, some of it's psychology. I think AD is a player who does get energy from watching his teammates play good defense. Like if
mm,
he makes a good defensive play, good defensive rotation that forces a bad shot, and somebody grabs that defensive rebound and now they're off running the break, even if he's not the person who scores in transition going the other way, I think there's energy in like I did something defensively to help my team and we successfully stopped them from scoring, won the possession, and that gives him some energy. It almost makes him like meant in the back of his mind, my effort wasn't being wasted. Like me going to do this rotation to help guys out. And I think when that doesn't happen, because of personnel or scheme, whatever we're running, I think that has a compounding effect on him. That's my psychology. That's my like conspiratorial or whatever you want to call it. That's my armchair psychology of why he's like that.
I I think you hit it on the head with that. I think the defense energizes him, and I had a follow-up with this. Do you think he's defending at a high level? Right?
No,
Like,
not this recently. This stretch since Orlando, he
yeah,
has been good defensively, and
right.
that's why I asked the question, should they go back to drop? Because it feels like if he goes to drop, AD has more ownership. Like now the play isn't behind him because he's on the
Right.
perimeter. Everything's in front of him. So now he feels like he's in control. Like big men like to know that you're not coming in the paint because you know I'm here. There's like some energy that they get from that.
Yeah,
And so I wonder if it's affecting him. I'm sure his biggest detractors will say that shouldn't affect him. And
sure.
if he's a superstar, superstars don't allow stuff like that to affect him. But that's just the situation we're in right now. Like, and I think the Lakers have to be aware of that.
Right, and again, you talked about, psychoanalyzing, and I don't want to do it with the whole team, but I'm watching a team, Benet, that doesn't believe in what they're defending,
Yeah,
and I think
especially that
that's
switching. Yeah,
right, and so I think, and coaches talk about this all the time, but some teams run zone. I think the Miami's the best team that gets their team to run a zone. It's tough to get players to invest in a zone defense. They just don't run it with as much conviction as they do like a man or a drop coverage, because it's more standard in terms of, you have a man in front of you versus you guarding an area, right? It's just different type. I'm seeing that with the team, and I'm seeing that with AD.
yeah,
Like I see when, in just putting the basketball with the mind together, it's kind of like I see when they switch, there's a level of shoulder slump, kind
mm,
of,
yeah,
a little bit of a conceding energy.
yeah,
And like that's just not Anthony Davis energy,
yeah,
it just does not concede. In Portland again, he was amazing. DeAndre Ayton is just an awful basketball player, but yeah, but it was
that guy,
nice.
man. Yeah,
It was nice to see AD kind of dominate both ends. But yeah, that's why I keep going back to I do think personnel is a big part of it for sure. You've echoed that, and a lot of people echoed those sentiments. 28th in defense, you got to try to be that bad.
yeah,
Like you have to tank.
yeah,
And like the Wizards are 28th and they don't have AD. Like you add AD to that Wizards team, they jump a few spots. I don't know how to evaluate like one player's impact on a defensive universe. But I feel like this team has not, if you like is like how much juice are you getting out of the squeeze? I just don't think we're getting the full defensive squeeze out of this team.
yeah.
Maybe
I
because it's the
agree.
switching, maybe it's because AD's in a slump or LeBron was in a slump or whatever it is. That's like my holistic view of the team right now is like, hey, can we guard a little bit? Can we be a little accountable for that side of the floor? Go watch Houston, go watch the Clippers, go watch all these other teams that defend. It's like
Yeah,
they're not putting out 5 Kawhi Leonards. They're not even putting out 1 Kawhi Leonard.
yeah.
Yeah,
And they're still one of the best defenses. Yeah, it's there is a thing to it. Oh, last 10 minutes, Raj. So there's a ton of other stuff that we could have totally covered, but that we didn't get. I definitely want to talk about the D'Lo stuff, the D'Lo Gabe stuff.
yeah.
So, but if we do that, it's going to take us like another 45 minutes to it. So let's take some of, we've talked about different themes. I think the defense and rebounding, having the right guys around your star players is a very core thing. My whole rant was about having a person who understands what the team actually needs around our two-star players. That's a core
Mhm,
issue with the organization. Was my whole take. But let's put on our basketball evaluation hats,
mm.
and let's say Rob comes to us. Rob goes, Vinay, I was moved by your speech, despite you putting me down so much. And Jeannie told me to reach out to you guys, to you and Raj, and get your opinion as outside consultants as to what the Lakers need to do. We're about 6 days away from
Mhm.
a whole bunch of players being eligible to be traded. That doesn't mean trades will happen, but it just when a lot of players become available to trade. Raj, what would you say? Not player specific, but
Hmm.
what specific themes need reinforcement on the Lakers? If it's like from a personnel side, what types of players are we trying to add to help this? Don't worry about who gets sent out.
Right,
That's
right.
not your problem. But what are the types of players that we need for this Lakers team to go from
Yeah,
a play-in team to a top 6 team in the West?
yeah. Again, I firmly believe there's internal stuff that needs to get better, but obviously, I think you'd want like again, I said it earlier. I'm just tired of 6'1" guards being your defensive you know, aces that you throw out there. Whether that be, Gabe, whether that be a Dennis Schroeder that comes in, whatever it is. I just think you need some wings that can guard and can hit an open shot, right? And I think Rui's kind of really got on fire, but the defense still concerns me. Just a player that's kind of in the middle there. And then obviously a big man. I'm higher on Koloko than most, and it's not because I just watch him in South Bay. I he's the best like defensive young center that we've had come through our
Fair.
system. We look at development in a very strange way where, Koloko couldn't guard Bam Adebayo. And so I saw a million tweets saying, get him off my team. Like, like that dude just ran backup center for us for a few weeks. And
Yeah.
I thought did a solid job with
Yeah.
Jackson Hayes out coming at back and out again. So, I'm not, this not, it's not public endorsement for Koloko to, be the full backup center. I would like to get another big man. I've echoed my, thoughts on Jonas very clearly. I'm not a Jonas guy, but I understand it from the perspective of the talent you can grab for the cost.
Yeah.
But definitely a big man that's athletic, that also can play next to AD, that has a little bit of Swiss Army knife ness, that you can play him next to it or can back him up. I don't know what that player looks like currently. There's a couple names out there that I'm sure we can get into, but that's what I see it, man. I'm not expecting a lot of big upgrades, honestly. From the actions kind of speak to the current situation we are in, and that's how I see it. But where are you at? I know you have deeper thoughts on this, and
Yeah.
what you thought
Yeah,
of
we could do like a whole hour and a half on this too as well. But I'm with you in your stance. Like we need to size up. Like we need to
yeah,
pretend that Jared Vanderbilt is not coming back. We need to pretend like Christian Wood is not coming back. That we are going to just play with two dead roster spots unless those players get traded itself. And we really, really have to um, try to add guys that have defensive versatility, but also have size. Like
yeah,
that has to be a core thing that this team needs. The way I keep thinking of it is you have enough scoring on this team. Like you have enough
mm,
individuals that want to shoot the ball on this team. You have AD, you have LeBron, you have Austin Reeves. After that, you have Rui, you have D'Lo. But assuming D'Lo gets traded, I won't include him. And then you have Dalton Connect. You have
yeah,
5 guys already that are more than happy to shoot 15 times a night if you allow them to. We don't
sure,
need anybody else. Like we don't need any other scoring. We don't need any other facilitating. Any facilitation gaps that we have should be offset by the fact that we have JJ Redick as our coach. Like, I don't want like I watched Gabe Vincent take a start against the Atlanta Hawks after not starting all season and just spam pick and roll actions because that's what he's good at. Like that's something that he's comfortable with doing
yeah,
and be successful at it. So I think JJ can put the guys in place when they do it. But I'm with you 100% of the way. Like I think you have to size up. Like we have to trade from these positions of depth that we have, the D'Lo, and please don't bring back more ball dominant guards. Like the Dennis Schroeder rumors coming out, and we don't have to address all of them, but like the Schroeder reunion, which I roll my eyes all like to add him back a third time. I don't know
third
how.
time's a charm.
Yeah, that
Yes,
doesn't raise a red flag within the front office itself, but like we have to find a way. Like, and Raj, the crazy part is this. I think even if it's not a big name player, but just a
mm,
player who's effective in what they do, even for the 10, 15 minutes that they play, I think it makes a huge difference to this team when it comes from
sure,
slotting guys into different situations. We played Orlando, and they have this kid, Tristan Da Silva. I think he's a rookie that they drafted, might be a second year player. He doesn't even look to shoot the ball, dude. Like he's literally just out there rebounding, playing defense on whoever they want him to play defense, and he's good at it. So I'm not gonna say he's like an average guy, but it's like if you can just find me guys that care, like that just give an F on defense at their position, I think it
yeah,
goes a long way. Like we make fun of, Laker fans make fun of Jackson Hayes a lot because of, he can make some really boneheaded plays on the offensive end. But like when he's playing defense and he's trying to block shots and crashing the glass, you can it almost jumps out from the screen, like on your television screen. Like this guy came in and completely shifted the energy of the team. And I think like stuff like that is something that the Lakers lack. And I, that should be our goal.
yeah,
Doesn't have to be big names. It has to be. I keep using the word goons and grunts. Like we need goons, dude. Like we need guys that like that's you know
yeah.
they don't want the other team to score. That's their whole thing.
Right, and I think that showed in 2023 as well, right? You make the trade and you get a couple role players that fit in, just some NBA level players that like Vando came in obviously, and you just were able to boost a team that was kind of waiting in line. I'm with you. I think those guys can help. I still I keep pushing. I think Dorian would help, and I've seen him in,
Huge
people
help.
talking about him in the chat. I think he would really help. He's kind of in that middle line, right? I keep saying we need a player that's kind of, it doesn't have to be what Rui is offensively. It doesn't even have to be what Vando is defensively, but it has to be somewhere in the middle there where he can walk both of those lines.
Yeah,
I think
somebody
Dorian
that cares. Yeah,
yeah, that carries that can guard. I think Dorian fits your goon kind of request as
Yeah.
well. He gets into a couple scuffles here and there.
Yeah, dude,
Um,
that's yeah, that's it. Like, please, like, if if D'Lo and a protected first and like maybe a minimum salary because I think you have to make the salaries work. If D'Lo and a protected first and a minimum salary can land you Dorian Finney-Smith and Day'Ron Sharp, I think that's a great trade for the Lakers. I don't like giving up a first round pick, but Day'Ron Sharp, you get restricted free agency on him. If he turns out to be a good player, he's repped by
yeah,
Austin's agent. Reps him too as well. You get him on a decent if he's like if he plays next to AD, if he backs up AD, like get a young body, get a guy who wants to rebound, who wants to play defense. And if all it takes is D'Lo, then you still have the ability to make other moves. Maybe you move Vando, maybe you move Gabe, maybe Rui. Somebody really, maybe Orlando comes to you and says, shoot, you know what? We just lost Franz and Paolo. Like, what do you guys want for Rui? Can we make a deal work to send you guys over for Rui? I'm not. This is just speculating. Or maybe the Sixers are like, you know what? Our season's over. We're 15
yeah.
games under 500 or whatever it is. So we need to start consolidating. What do you guys want for Rui, or what do you guys want for Gabe? We have some guys that we can move around. That might help you. You never know what opportunity can come up. But if you can at least December 15th, if we can try to address, the defensive 3-and-D guy and the
Yeah.
center that's like a real center, and then who knows? Maybe Jackson comes back healthy. Now all of a sudden we go from having no usable centers to two guys that we can mix in to help give AD a break.
Right.
I think they can make a huge difference.
And I think Christian Wood is at least supposed to come back. Again, I think Vando is kind of a lost lost at
Yeah.
sea kind of guy, and
Yeah.
you just hope he figures it out. But I think Christian at least is supposed to be a little closer. But I think Vinay is a good transition. We got a lot of like YouTube comments, and I think
A
it'd be
lot of
cool to
comments.
kind of. I think
And we always
it'd be cool.
appreciate them, folks. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
hundred
reading them. Yeah,
percent.
go for it.
But I think it'd be cool to kind of go through these because I
Yeah.
think this kind of fits you're asking for December. JJ Lobos says, "Hey guys, great show. How many other Cup Canadian games do you think we have to lose in December to make a trade?" This is a pretty rough schedule, by the way. So
Yeah.
you get Minnesota, Memphis, the Kings twice. I'm not high on the Kings, but they play us extremely well, and they just got another guy that kills us in DeRozan. Detroit obviously is Detroit. The Warriors are playing well again. Kings, and then the Cavs. That's a hellacious schedule. But
Yeah.
Vinay, we are 2 games over 500 now. I think even splitting this is a win, but like how many losses, I guess, in your opinion, push trade, chatter to
I
a
think I
beyond point?
think so I think trade chatter is going to intensify regardless of the win-loss schedule. It's just the question is how bad are the losses? They're going to lose some of these
Mm,
games. The question is how bad are the losses? That's really what it is. Because the wins, I don't even think the Lakers fans like if the Lakers win games. I don't think the Laker fans are going to be like, yeah, that's great. We don't have to do anything. I think Laker fans are going to be like, no, we're playing on the edge of a cliff here with some of these games. Um, so if they drop under 500, right? Like let's say they drop these first 3 games, Wolves, Grizzlies, Kings. If they lose 3 straight again, like oh yeah, like it's gonna get bad. Like you're gonna get. Um, I don't think you're gonna get protests at crypto, but it's gonna get bad for sure.
yeah, I think it'll get bad from a fan's perspective, but I think again, I think the ownership and the not ownership, but the management has kind of told you how they feel, right?
Yeah,
You guys, you got Gentleman's Foot by Denver a year ago, and obviously a lot of hopes were put in the Max Christie basket, and they were put in the Gabe Vincent basket, and those baskets have produced a few eggs, but it's hasn't hit what it has. I'm curious what way the front office looks at this, and I'm more cynical because I just don't believe a move is any kind of move is happening when you have to give up actual first round kind of equity. But we'll go through these other ones, Vinay, kind of quick, and I'll just
yeah.
quick hitters. They return to switching when LeBron returns, and the switching is for LeBron. I think the switching is for LeBron. I think it's for our guards as well. I think it's
Yeah.
kind of a. Do you agree with that? It's kind of to protect, and I think it's doing more damage than good. But do you agree with that? That the switching is kind of protect the non-defenders, and I think it's having the opposite effect.
I think the switching is to protect the guys who are poor at defensive communication. It's not even
Yeah.
ability. I think there are a few guys who are very bad at getting hit by a screen and then knowing where they're supposed to go. Some of it I do think is for I don't think the switching entirely is because of LeBron. I think like Rui has also been really bad defensively, and it's like for him too as well, where it's like easier to just tell Rui just take this switch as
Hmm.
opposed to telling Rui, hey, you've got to be low man because you're over here on this side of the court, or you have to be the guy who digs at the dribble because you're one pass away. So I think it's more like like Dalton has also been really bad defensively.
Yeah.
Like he had the game against Miami, he was getting out rebounded by guys that he shouldn't have been out rebounded by. In Atlanta, he got the message and started crashing the glass more, so that was good to see. But like when you're fielding that many guys who are not good with defensive communication, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Or with defensive effort, that's a problem. So I don't think
Y-
it's Braun specific, but we've got some guys who it's definitely specific for.
And then I just keep like, isn't that part of the coaching staff's job to like
Yeah,
make sure the
it is.
team
It is.
communicates?
It is.
All right, Gray Raj, veterans who can sort of check and reel in our stars. And then, guys who are smart, sounds silly, but a guy like DFS isn't just a good two-way player. He's also a smart player on both sides. DFS, you think is a guy that can check like the stars? Do you put him in that category? I
Yeah,
don't,
so
I don't see
I don't
that.
think that's going to happen. I don't think anybody can check LeBron and AD. If anything, what I think happens is anybody who tries to check them, they check out even more in the direction that they want to
Oh
go in.
man.
And like I think Ham that happened with Ham, like where they just like they kind of like were like, oh whatever, we're just gonna go through the motions, we don't care. Um, I actually think you almost need a guy who has almost an infectious defensive personality. Like a
Mm,
guy, like we make fun of Pat Beverly for this, but like Pat had a pretty infectious defensive personality. Like you were, or
sure.
if you were around him, you often saw other guys pick up their defensive intensity because they're around him. And I feel like you shouldn't have to need to bring a third person to do that. But sometimes that's just like Dwight was a defensive personality. JaVale was a defensive personality. Avery Bradley did an interview where he's like, I do meditations on the side because when I go into games, I'm like, and he's like in like this maniac mode defensively where he just wants to like destroy the person that he's guarding. So it's like,
Yeah.
you just need to get guys like that. Maybe not a leader, but bring
Yeah.
more guys like that onto your roster.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's kind of like if Cam Reddish was a little bit more, had more emotions in his
Yeah.
face,
Yeah.
would scream after he got a deflection, but he's one of the most stone cold faces in the league, even
But
though
he
he
takes it
defends.
personally. You can see he takes those matchups personally.
He does, but he doesn't like Avery Bradley it, where
Yeah.
he'll like look at you at the end or do anything like that. So the Lakers need somebody who can do that.
Yeah.
All right, and then Garage having some more rim pressure, like from our guards, can really help 80 scoring. You mentioned that we have enough scoring. Is there enough rim pressure in that offensive package to you that you just named? LeBron, AD, Rui,
Yeah.
Austin, and Dalton. Is that enough rim pressure to you?
No, it's certainly not. I think most of the rim pressure gets generated by Austin. So when we don't have Austin, it definitely hurts us quite a bit. I am would like to say am one of the folks who is a big pioneer of the concept of rim pressure because that was one of the reasons I was saying Russell Westbrook was on this
Oh,
team.
right. Yes.
Yeah, and that concept got stolen from me and used by I won't name who it was, but I think rim pressure does matter. But more importantly for the Lakers, they it's not rim pressure per se, but a guy who doesn't need a screen to go by
Mm,
the guy that's
feature
guarding
guy.
him. That was one of the cases where I was saying if you can get Brandon Ingram for cheap and it only costs you a
Mm,
first, like you should go after it because he's a guy who doesn't need a screen to beat his guys. Not that many kind of guys available,
yeah.
in the league. Um, but also if you add a guy like that, you have to use him. Like you have to carve out minutes. I don't think this Lakers team necessarily needs a rim pressure guy. They kind of just need some more structure. Like you see that Portland game, they're just feeding Rui like over and over and over again. And Rui's getting guarded by real athletes. Like Shaden Sharp was guarding him, I think. Like he or Tumani Kamara or whatever was guarding him. Like,
Yeah.
and he's scoring. He's in rhythm, doing all the stuff that he normally does. When was the last time you saw Rui get that many touches like that?
Yeah.
Like, I think structure would help offset some of the rim pressure stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this team kind of just needs LeBron to put that, that put the rim pressure on as well, right? A lot of times, I think he's the one that's relied on to still. He's the best still, I think, on the team that can like beat his guy. Like I think the Austin can do it in a different variety. D'Lo doesn't really attack switches that way, but I think LeBron can kind of still get by his guy when he wants and kind of offer that rim pressure. And then AD kind of post ups is a different type of rim pressure. But yeah, I'm with you. I think the offense is fine. I do think the rim pressure is interesting against good teams. We're able to shut off the paint. Last one because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
Alan Gervais, hope I said that correctly. As long as Reeves, Dalton, and Braun is there, the defense won't be good. Braun literally doesn't move at times defensively.
A lot of anti-broad defensive sentiment, which I think is I'll take this first. This observation, I think Reeves tries on defense. I think Dalton is learning what playing defense at the NBA level is. He's been genuinely awful at it. Raj and I mentioned, in the DMs that if Dalton doesn't pick up his rebounding or his defensive effort, he's going to get benched out of that starting group, because I don't think JJ is going to have tolerance for it. For him, not like he's too good of an athlete to be as bad as he is when it comes to all the other stuff. I wouldn't say that the defense won't be good because of those three guys. Defense in basketball is not an individual sport. Like unless we get to a point where we see every single night opposing teams pick on any one of these three guys specifically over and over again, that's never the case. It's just a matter of just kind of effort, and putting guys in position to be successful. So that's just kind of the way I approach it.
Yeah, I think Austin's fine. Like he's not a great defender, but to your point, I think he tries, and I think there's a defensive role for him. Dalton, I think, is just too good an athlete to be as bad as he is. He's a rookie, so I grade them on a different scale. Vinay, I don't look at Dalton the same as person who's been in the league long. And I mean, he's not wrong. There is sometimes that Braun doesn't move defensively, but
he's old, bro. He's old.
Yeah,
like it's
for sure.
I think Laker fans just have to understand that this is the risk, not the risk, but this is like a part of it. Like Braun is not going to do if he has to be the low man for 15 possessions, like 10 of those, like 5 of those possessions, he's not doing his job. Like he's going to do it for the other 10 when it matters. Like he's not doing low man responsibilities when we're up 10 or 12. Right. He'll be like, whatever, we can give up this bucket on this one. Right. We'll get it back the other way.
Yeah, and these three are, hopefully supplemented with AD. So you hope that that kind of changes the equation. But I think that's all the ones I have for this one.
Well, folks, we went actually a little over time, a little over our normal hour and 15 minutes, but there's a lot to get to, and there's a lot that we didn't get to. So maybe me and Raj will coordinate some schedules and give you a double dose of Lakers detailed before the week is over, and not make you guys have to wait for a week. But as always, we appreciate everybody that tuned in, whether you're here with us from the start or joined during it. You can find the recording on the live stream section of the Lakers Detailed YouTube, or you can replay it on my account or Raj's account, or you can just wait for me to upload it to Apple and Spotify, and you can watch the video episode that way too as well. But wherever you are and whenever you end up listening to this, we appreciate you and all the support that you guys give. And if nothing else, we'll catch you in the next one. Enjoy the break and take it easy.
Peace.